Hello, my name is Robert Tusardi. I am the creator of Blockchain Kingdoms. We turn video gaming into passive income and paid work. In this video, I'm going to be talking about the Mirandus buildings. What do they do? I'm going to be speculating on what kind of value the Mirandus buildings can provide to gamers and owners and players. I'm also going to be speculating about the economy. How do these buildings work inside the economy? Now, I don't know anything for certain. Mirandus is in a pre-alpha stage. I've listened to a lot of videos by the developers and read a lot. And so we're going to be looking at the descriptions, kind of help us navigate through this. But I think it'll be fun to kind of speculate what could these buildings possibly do and how we might be able to use them inside of Mirandus. Now, if you have not signed up yet with Gala Games, you can go ahead and register on their website at the bottom of this link. I am super excited. They are a blockchain MMO. I think they will probably be the first and biggest blockchain MMO coming out next year. We're not going to be talking deeds, only buildings today, and so many of these are sold out. So many buildings are now sold out. Not a lot are left. The Hitching Post and Simple Storehouses sold out just this weekend. Like I said, I thought they would in my last video. So there are the Simple Storehouses. And the Simple Storehouses are 5x5s. They are the smallest building in Mirandus, and the Simple Storehouse says it is a basic structure for storing crafted goods. Building in Mirandus actually has different levels of buildings. Like the Simple Storehouse is kind of a small storehouse. So the other storehouse here, this is a 10x10. So the 10x10s are actually 4 times bigger than the 5x5s. And the 10x10 storehouse says it is a storehouse for holding perishables and crafted goods. So the big difference between the way that the Simple Storehouse and this storehouse is labeled is that this one talks about perishables. So it's very possible that with the 10x10 storehouse that it can hold things like bread, milk, other things that might perish, where the other Simple Storehouse might not. And I think the upper tier storehouses, like the Grand Storehouse, the Large Storehouse, I think those may hold things like furniture, possibly much larger items that are there to store. And I also think they'll probably have like a premium, right? So if you're going to have like a 10x10 plot of a storehouse, it might actually hold like maybe 20%, 30%, who knows how much more items than the storehouse tier below it. Don't know for certain, that's speculation, but I think it's kind of fun to think about. So the hitching posts. Hitching posts say they are, if you leave your horse here, it will be there when you return. This is also a 5x5 building. And so I think the hitching post is pretty clear. That's basically like a carport or a parking spot. You can put your mount there, and then your mount will stay there. So could your mount possibly wander into the forest, get eaten by a wolf if you don't put it on a hitching post, or just gets lost entirely? I think it's a possibility. So it's probably why they put these here. So your horse does not wander away. And so I think with the hitching posts, I kind of think it's interesting conjecture about whether or not you'll need hay or water. I do know that the economy, they've said they want the economy to be very interdependent, so that anybody with a particular crafting building or something is not wholly independent, that they might need some kind of assistance from the economy somehow. So hitching posts might need like water or hay, and hay you might get from a farmer. So pure speculation again. So when you go up into like the stables and things like that, I actually think stables are one of the most undervalued buildings, because I've asked people in the community, and they've said that the developers have said, again, this is hearsay, secondhand word down, that the stables, you'll be able to breed horses, mounts inside of them. So I think that makes stables extremely valuable. I know the ranching hamlets where you're supposed to be able to raise animals on have been one of the most expensive items selling on OpenSea. Many of these buildings now are almost anywhere between 4 times to 10 times more what they originally cost on the Gala website. Now you can only get many of them on OpenSea or from another player. And the stables, I think, have been, are still going for fairly reasonable price compared. If you can actually raise mounts inside a stable like that, I think that's huge value for you. If so I actually own 3 stables. I own 3 stables and 4 hitching posts, because I like monopolizing carports. Well, I really don't have a monopoly, but it's nice to have the ones I have and to speculate on how I might be able to use them to provide value for myself in the game. So the grand stables, you can probably put in a much better majestic stable here. So let's click on the majestic stable. So it says, the cantor of these illustrious steeds is unmistakable, is the power of their destrier. So I think that really means that if you look at the descriptions of grand ones, kind of similar. It makes it sound like only the best steeds can be found there. So maybe only the best steeds can be raised there. Maybe they, if you have a really great steed and it has a high level of stamina, maybe to get that full level of stamina back, it does it faster if it's in a grand stable or majestic stable. I don't know. I think they're going to have incentives for having a lot of these upper tier buildings, right? And have bonuses that you might not have. You can probably even fit more horses and things inside of a grand stable, like a 20% or 30% premium more. Yeah, but if you're going to spend twice as much between a grand stable and a large stable, I imagine you're probably going to get some kind of really cool bonus, hopefully, from that. Again, I think I've said this before in my other videos, but I don't think Gala Games' focus is making sure that you get like ROI. So if you buy one of these buildings, especially on OpenSea, for like 4 times what it originally sold for, there's really no promise that you're going to make that money back. When you buy these items, I think you should really buy them for the status of having them in the game. Possibly you'll make your investment back. I think it's a very good chance. I actually do believe I'm going to make my investment back on a lot of these. But I've also bought almost everything that I have at either the original store value, or I bought it at a value that I thought was still going to make me a return on the future. So just be very careful if you go onto the store and you pay 10 times what something was originally worth on the store, because there really is no guarantee by Gala Games that you'll be making that money back. So moving on to archeries. So archeries, kind of like forges, will allow you to create weapons. Archeries in particular says here it's a basic stand for creating bows and fletching arrows. Now, I've said before that I think items like the forges, the Grand Forge especially, will allow you to create like upper tier NFTs, so you can trade those outside the video game. I think this is so huge. And I think the archery stands are kind of similar. You could probably craft bows that you could sell out on the blockchain. I think that's super cool. There is no grand archery. There's only large archeries. But I think those large archeries will be pretty hot. So they've said in the game that they want the bows and arrows to, they want the arrows to be kind of scarce. Like, if you shoot an arrow, you really want to make it count. That's what Michael McCarthy, the lead developer, has said. So I think if you're going to use bows and arrows in the game, there's probably going to be some heavy-duty mechanics. I sometimes think this game sounds a little bit like the Dark Souls of kind of like fantasy MMO, or like fantasy MMORPGs. I don't think it's going to be quite that hardcore, but I think the game's going to be difficult, so all of these items are going to have a place in the world. So woodworking stands. So this is a basic stand for small woodworking projects. I don't think I've really heard a lot about what these could possibly provide. Some of the upper level woodworking, like the woodworking shop and the grand one, they say that you actually create furniture, like beds and things like that, inside the woodworking shop. And I also speculate that there's a possibility that you might need woodworking stands or shops to help you actually build buildings. I don't know if that's true, but I think it's interesting to speculate. I actually bought a woodworking stand and a woodworking shop just in case I have to go and make a bunch of my own furniture, or I need them to help build my shops from the ground up. The weapon stands go from 5x5 all the way up to majestic. There's majestic weapon shops. The majestic weapon shops are actually the first majestic things to sell out. I was kind of surprised. I thought forges would have been the first. I'm speculating, I actually have never heard this officially said, but I'm speculating that the higher level a weapon store, the better things you can put out on display. So if you have a grand weapon shop, well then you might be able to put on some of the best items out on display. But if you have a weapon stand, you might need like a larger display in order to put like some of the best stuff out there to buy. Now there might also be marketplaces like bazaars, things like that, and obviously you can always take these items out, some of these items at least, probably out onto the blockchain. And I'm not really sure how that's going to work with the weapon stores. I still have high hopes the weapon stores will be very valuable for gamers. I think it's kind of a cool idea to maybe have like a bazaar, but the bazaar only works for people who own weapon stores. And maybe there's actually like an upcharge for buying things on the general open market bazaar. You walk up to a guy, he gives you a listing of all the stuff that's available in the stores for that area, and then you pay like a 10% fee or something for not actually walking to the store. Maybe there's a directory and you can save yourself to walk to the store. Because I like the idea of actually really being able to go to a store and really observe like what the players have built. I think that's a really cool idea. So hopefully there's still incentive to go to a lot of these shops, especially for the armor shops and weapon shops. And so for armor stands, kind of the same thing as I've been talking about for weapons. And again, I think I should bring up that so many of these stores will probably have dependencies, and the crafting buildings will have a dependency on other buildings. In order to build weapons, you'll probably either need to find them out in the world or buy them from other players, or to build a weapon, you may need resources either harvested by players or made in shops. Like in order to make an axe, maybe you need to get something from a wood shop. So a lot of these things are going to, I think, have interdependencies. Like the stable, probably you will need hay, might need some furniture like stalls built by a wood shop. So let's go into the bread stand. So bread stand says 5x5 basic baked goods are made here with a modest clay oven. So they've said that they want food and drink to be a huge part of Mirandus. So I think sustenance is going to be a big part of the game, possibly healing like wounds that stop you from having maximum hit points and stamina out in the world. And they've actually built a lot of infrastructure around the food. So I think it's even possible that you need food. If you have NPCs that help you operate your stores, maybe you have to feed the NPCs as well as like feeding the animals. So I can really see how, yeah, food and sustenance, and why farming it could potentially be such a huge part of this game. So for the upper tier bakeries, and the line of this goes into bakeries, large bakeries, I think those would probably be able to create juicier food that gives you more sustenance for longer or better. So these have actually been really hot since the beginning. Anything that has to do with milling or baking has been pretty much in demand a lot. So the simple granaries, what I think is going to happen to the granaries is that they're basically where you're going to store, and you can also sell your harvest from the plots. So I think if you're someone who has a bakery and you want to go and you want to buy a bunch of grain, I think you will probably do it from a granary. And I don't know why there's so many granaries. I guess it makes sense what I just said, actually. It's because that's where you would buy them from. That's really why I would see why they would have so many granaries, is because if you can't put a bunch of grain in a storehouse, and maybe you can put flour in a storehouse, but you might not be able to put grain in a storehouse. So if you're going to go buy grain, you go to the granary. I think that's how it'll work. So forges. So forges we've kind of already really talked about. I think the higher, similar to the archeries, the higher level the forge, probably the better the crafted items it can make. Now you can probably still find some really great items out in the world, weapons and armor, that might be better than what you could create inside a forge. But I think like if you have a grand forge or majestic forge, you can probably create some of the highest level items in the game. And I imagine there's going to be some some kinds of elements in a Grand Forge or Majestic Forge that you can only find in those particular high-level forges. And I think there's a possibility the forges might have a dependency on many things. They might need wood, or they would probably also need maybe some kind of magic. If you want to build a magic weapon, you might need either potions or a temple to like bless your ore or your iron or something like that. Again, a lot of that speculation. No one's really said so much, but I still think it's interesting. So grain stand. The grain stand's is the basic milling building. So says basic milling can be performed by hand here. I don't know if that means you have to sit there and you have to keep pushing the button to mill, or maybe you can put an NPC there. So I forget I said during the bread stand whether or not I think you can actually make bread. The bread stand does say you can actually make bread in the bread stand with a clay oven. But I think in order to make bread, you're also going to need to mill it. So you'll need something like a grain stand, and you'll need to first get some grain from a plot, from the wheat plot, and then take that and you will need to mill it. And if you can't mill it, then you would put it into a granary. But the mills have actually been, again, one of the most expensive items once they were sold out. I think a lowest right now a mill is like $500 on OpenSea. So that's almost 5 times the original price. So apparently people, I think these are going to be really important. So milking stands. Milking stands, this is a basic stand for milking cows and sheep. So again, I think milk probably used in some baking products. It's also very possible that you won't just need something like bread or something to keep you sustained, but you might need milk as well, or even brew from a brewery. Breweries and butcheries are actually coming out soon. They're not out at the creation of this video. So potion stands. I actually think that potion shops and potion stands will be potentially one of the highest revenue items or shops in the video game, because potions are consumable, and people use them all the time to heal up and to fight bigger, badder things. And I actually bought a potion stand because I thought it might be part of my supply chain for my Grand Forge, because I own a Grand Forge. And I actually bought a potion shop at, so did I say stand before? I meant potion shop. I bought a potion shop for $1,000, and that's almost 10 times the original value of it. But I think it'll be worth it. So I went ahead and I bought one of those potion stands. And I also bought a homestead because I thought there was a possibility that I might need a farming plot to order to create regents for the potion shop. I don't know if this is for certainty. But I think, if you have a potion shop, you're either going to be relying on other people to bring you the regents, or you're going to have to get the regents yourself, either by going out into the world and harvesting them, or if you have a farm plot and they allow you to actually like plant regents into, and create like, Wattwurst or whatever it is that, the different herbs and things you use to make potions. Okay, so temples. Temples, it says healing and blessings can be found here if the offering suffices. So I think healing is going to be a pretty huge mechanic in the game. There was a game called Star Wars Galaxies, and also this is also something that happens in a game called Conan Exiles, where as you go and you play, you get these things that are like wounds, and essentially it lowers your maximum amount of health and your maximum amount of stamina. So eventually you do have to go back to town and heal. Or do something that essentially reduces the amount of wounds you have. So I think a lot of these things will be kind of simple in this game when it comes to taverns and temples. They may help you with essentially your full efficiency in being able to operate in the world. It's also very possible they might be able to bless you for higher chances of crafting items, better items, or possibly blessing items to create other upper tier items. I don't know. I think there's a lot of speculation around temples. What we do know about temples is that there's about half as many temples as taverns, which I think means that temples would then be kind of more a little rarer than taverns and more valuable than taverns. Taverns. So taverns always have a special place in my heart. I love, the cantinas in Star Wars Galaxies. And so I actually asked a question at GalaCon 2 weekends ago, and they had an AMA with Michael McCarthy, their lead developer, and I asked him what is the special purpose of a tavern in the game, and he gave a really good answer. He said that he wants it where people go to kind of recover from their adventures, and there is music, and players could even craft their own music. I suggest going onto the Discord if you want to ask more people about that. There's a lot of speculation about what it might be like to create your own music in the game and as NFTs. So I love the idea of a tavern. I kind of think of a tavern as kind of like a house, but like a much bigger house. It's kind of a place where you could go with your friends and have your own tavern, and you can make it look how you want to look, put up your trophies on the walls, and come back to the same tavern always with the same friends. So I kind of think of taverns as kind of like these giant houses, and it might even be why we see so many of them, because they want to have these taverns basically become like the places where the guilds might kind of come to hang out, especially if a guild can't afford like a giant house or in a deed or something like that. Taverns will be the next best thing. Wow, so I just realized that I actually just blew through all of these and I'm done. So I think the last thing for me to say is that in terms of storage and storehouses, there's supposed to be storage inside of like the deeds if you own a homestead. However, there are probably things that can be put inside of like your house at a homestead that can't be put inside of a storehouse and vice versa. That's kind of my speculation. But man, I am super excited for this game. If you found this helpful, you enjoyed my video, please like and subscribe. If you have not yet signed up for Mirandus, go ahead and you can use my referral link at the bottom of this video to register with Gala Games and explore the website and possibly buy some NFTs. There is a new game coming out this year from Gala Games. It is called Fortified. It is a tower defense game. So those NFTs are going to be coming out here, they said possibly pretty soon, maybe this month of March. So yeah, everyone have a great day. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next time.